All right. Good morning and welcome to the State of Transportation. On behalf of the Space Coast Transportation Planning Organization, I want to thank you for being here today. My name is 𝗧𝗏. I'm the Senior Transportation Planner for the Space Coast TPO. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge all elected officials and their legislative aides. If you would all please stand. You are an elected official. Thank you for your service to our communities. Next, I would like to acknowledge any Space Coast TPO Governing Board or Advisory Committee members. Please stand. Thank you for your dedication in advancing transportation on the Space Coast. A few housekeeping items before we get started. Restrooms are located in the lobby near the front entrance. Exits are located near the back of the room. If you need an emergency, if you have an emergency, please get a Space Coast TPO staff member. Today's program, as well as a paper feedback form, can be found on your seat or in front of you, as well as some other materials in regard to the Space Coast TPO. We encourage you to provide feedback via the paper survey before you leave today, or you may use the QR code in your program to fill it out virtually at a later date. If you have any questions or comments, please get with the staff during the break or at the end of the program. Please return your name badges to a name tag basket that will be located in the back of the room. Please silence all cell phones and smartwatches. However, we do encourage you to take photos of today's symposium and don't forget to tag us, as well as use the hashtag #AdvancedSpaceCoast2050. Finally, I would like to thank our caterer and our breakfast sponsor. So today's agenda will begin with an introduction to our long-range plans and planning process, and then move into a rapid-fire session of presentations from community partners, municipalities, and modal and regional partners. With 21 agencies represented, it will go very quickly. We'll have a break in the middle where we encourage you to engage with our long-range plans team in our modal station table and safety table, and be sure to participate in our Mentimeters. Our day will finally wrap up with our dynamic keynote speaker, 𝗧𝗿𝗄𝗃, the Executive Director of Space Coast TPO. So why are we here today? As part of the development of our 2050 Long-Range Transportation Plan and 2035 Transportation Development Plan, we wanted to bring together our community leaders and citizens. We wanted you to have the opportunity to share about local and regional transportation priorities and our vision for the future. We wanted you to engage in transportation planning activities and development and provide feedback on the transportation network of tomorrow. And with that, I would like to introduce Nick Lepp with HDR to kick our day off discussing our long-range plan.
Thank you, Sarah. Good morning. So as Sarah said, this is kind of the kickoff for the long-range transportation plan, but not only the long-range transportation plan, but also the transit development plan. We are combining these two plans this time as we commence and look at the vision for the future. 2050 is the horizon for the long-range plan. In 2035 is the horizon for the TDP, but then we're still going to look at transit and have those together as a horizon for a fully multimodal plan, trying to pick out 2050 and do the transportation vision for the future. So with the long-range plan, this is a 20-year plan that's required by the federal government, required for the TPO to complete. This is the transportation vision of the Space Coast for the future. All projects that kind of go forward that will use either federal or state funds need to be in this long-range transportation plan. It's updated every 5 years to kind of confirm the vision. We have some goals, the goals over there from the last plan that we really want you to help confirm that. Make sure we're on the right track with that vision as we go forward. And as we hear about all the projects here from all of our partners and the locals, how that can help contribute to that vision and within the plan itself. With the Transit Development Plan, this is also required by the state, but this is a 10-year look, really as a planning document to help them get through the next current 5 years and then the next 5 years. But we want to put these two plans together and have similar horizon years and similar vision for anything after that 2035. So how can the long-range plan do more of a multimodal approach to these corridors, looking at transit, sidewalk, bike, as well as auto travel? So this is essential in the TPO's function and really how to get projects funded and move forward to ultimately construction. So the long-range plan is that vision. That sets that framework of the projects that we know we need in the future and what we think we can afford under cost feasibility. That list of priority projects and the call for projects that you do every year helps support the TPO, bring those projects into the Transportation Improvement Program. That's that bridge to get them funded. They can't get funded until they're in the TIP, but they can't even get in the TIP until they're in that long-range plan. So this is what we're trying to do. Not only add that to the long-range plan, but really hear what these local projects are that will help complement those federal and state projects that are coming forward. Within the plan, there's many phases, so we're not just looking at, how do we get projects through construction? We need to go through all the steps, planning phases, project design, right-of-way, construction. This takes a while. Transportation projects take about 20 years to get complete, which is why we're kind of behind right now on where we are at with what's needed for transportation improvements versus the funding that we have available for improving those roads. So why do we really want you to stay involved? Well, this is your plan. This is your community plan. Space Coast TPO and the federal government and state, they can't do all of the improvements that are needed really to support the mobility or the future of the Space Coast. So it's going to be a partnership with everybody here looking at local projects, state projects, federal projects, and multimodal projects as we're talking about the airport and spaceport as we're looking at the future into 2050 and really how this county is going to grow in the future. So we have some success stories. So it's not just about doom and gloom and that we can't get projects done. There are several projects that were in the long-range plan and they only got completed because they were talked about in the long-range plan several years ago, but they were still in the plan itself as they move forward into completion. One of those was the Pineda Interchange and the Pineda Extension. That came out of the long-range plan back in the 2025 days. The East Central Florida Regional Trail, that came out of the master plan that the TPO worked on and then went into the long-range plan to ultimately go through the process to get funded and now is already constructed. The St. John's Heritage Parkway, which was a long vision around Palm Bay, that has been in the long-range plans for several cycles, and it took that long for it to actually get constructed just over the past couple years. Same with the Apollo extension, which was more of a local facility that the TPO assisted with trying to get that connection going all the way over, that vital connection across for that north-south traffic. And if it wasn't in the long-range plan or the support of the TPO, that project probably would not have gone forward. And then last but not least, the State Road 520 Complete Street. This came out of the 2040 long-range plan as a safety study, which DOT then took on as a planning study, and now you can see that construction going forward under that resurfacing to put in those complete street and safety improvements. So all of these started coming through that long-range plan process, so this is going to be a great opportunity to hear what you have going on locally and how we can pull that all into the plan for 2050. All of this, like I said, we really want to take this and confirm our goals. The goals establish kind of that framework for how we're going to process this plan over the next 18 months to 2 years. We have a station over there. We would really like to help let you participate or have you participate in confirming these goals and make sure we are still on the right track for what this plan should accomplish over that 2050 horizon. So please take a moment during the break and come on over and see us and help us vote on those goals. And the QR code is right there, but we also have it over there on the board for yourself. And with that, I will turn it over to Sarah.
All right. Thank you, Nick. Please be sure to engage with Nick, the rest of the long-range plan team, as well as also our intermodal table and our safety table during the break and following today's program. Your input helps shape our plans and programs. It is now my pleasure to kick off our local jurisdiction and modal partner updates by introducing Nicholas Gow, Economic Development and Redevelopment Coordinator with the City of Titusville. Next will be Space Florida.
Good morning, everybody. I guess I have the privilege of being the first one to come up this morning, so let's get it kicking off here. All right, so the City of Titusville, we have a couple projects that we have underway right now when it comes to state transportation. The first one is the State Road 405 South Street. We're going to be doing some improvements from State Road 50, the 4-lane section there. Currently, it is working through FDOT for study into what level of improvements needed in the corridor, as well as the project is proposed to be advanced from the previously planned study dates. The other project that we have underway is the East Coast Greenway US 1 Trail. State Road 50 to Gray Street, the addition of the trail on the east side of US 1. FDOT has confirmed that the project is moving forward with right-of-way mapping for the US 1 corridor. And this project is planned in the Sun Trail program. And then I got a map up here to show you kind of the Sun Trail program that we have within the city of Titusville. It's probably going to be the quickest 3 minutes of the day, but I wanted to leave some extra room in case it's needed. Cool. That's what I try to do, you know. So we'll give it up to Dale next.
All right, thank you, Nicholas. Next is 𝗟𝗲𝗁, VP of Government and External Affairs with Space Florida. Next will be Tycho.
Good morning. I guess most of you are familiar with Space Florida, so I'm not going to do that. I guess most of you are probably familiar with the extent to which Space Florida works closely with FDOT, Canaveral Port Authority, TPO, and statewide, because our jurisdiction is statewide. We are like an airport or a seaport authority, but our jurisdiction goes from Key West to Pensacola. But clearly, I'm a native Floridian, third generation, and I've been here since 1955, so I have an vested interest in Brevard County. I think what I'd like to have you all come away with is the fact that Space Florida is working collaboratively on transportation issues, because that is a primary function of what we do. I think the big issues we're working right now is the wharf study, which some of you may have heard about, which is working closely with the port. It's FDOT funding coming through us to study how can we best accommodate the growing maritime component of commercial launch and landing, because we're all acutely familiar with the extent to which the commercial space market is growing, but they are increasingly using maritime assets. And we really didn't have a chance to plan for that, because I don't think even 5 years ago people understood that, even the launch providers. Now we have more and more coming on board, and we don't have the supply to meet demand. So collectively, how do we address that and allow our primary business of this county, not the only one, but the most high profile, to continue to grow? And that's good for the county, it's good for the state, it's good for the nation, and we would argue humanity. So we're doing our goal to build a better world. I think one of the ways, another component we do that's not necessarily transportation, is wastewater. We're investing closely in how do we prepare for the 20,000 new jobs we anticipate out at the Cape in the future, because the wastewater treatment system is not available. So how do we do that in such a fashion that it becomes a positive for the Indian River Lagoon to clean all that up? But the basic reason I guess I want to leave you with is, what is the goal? Why do we do this? And our vision is, there are a lot of spaceports around the country that say they want to be the gateway to space. That's kind of pedestrian. Our long-term vision, 2050, represents that. We want to be the gateway to Earth, because as the human enterprise expands into the solar system, and it is happening fast. When people and goods and services start coming back to Earth, whether they've been away for a long time, or by 2050 we might have people starting to be born in space. In the future, that's going to be the case. We're going to have people who grow up not being on the planet. When they come to Earth for the first time, we want it to be here. And that puts additional importance on what we do here in this community. Because if you're the first place that a human comes to see the home planet, we got to make sure our river is clean. We don't have people living in the woods. We have everything that you want to be. It's like if you have guests coming to your house, you want it to be clean, looking good. You want it to be in tip-top shape. Well, that's kind of the goal for what Brevard County should be in the future, because our kids' kids are going to be dealing with that. And maybe just our kids. It's all happening so fast. So I'll leave you with that. Our goal is, we want to be the gateway to Earth, the first place that people see when they come to this planet. Thank you.
Next We have 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗃, Director of Airports with Titusville-Cocoa Airport. Oh, sorry, you were clicking. 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗃 with Director of Airports with Titusville-Cocoa Airport Authority. Next will be 𝗬𝗏 Company.
Thank you. I guess I didn't understand the assignment. I put together 465 slides, so we should wrap up by 9 or 10.
Good job.
Thank you. I'm just kidding. I do comedy too. I did want to give a bit of an overview. I'm 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗃. I'm the director of the Titusville-Cocoa Airport Authority, also known as TICO. A lot of people really don't know us. We are an independent authority. It's governed by 7 board members that are appointed by the county and the city of Titusville. I like to say I have 7 bosses, but really 8 when there's the boss lady at home. We're owner-operator of 3 airports plus our spaceport, which was recently branded Exploration Spaceport. So in North Titusville, we have Arthur Dunn Air Park, which is basically a recreational airport. Its claim to fame is really skydiving. It also has a short runway and a short paved runway and a turf runway. Very, very popular. We like to call it the little airport that could. We also have Merritt Island Airport, which is an iconic facility located right along Sykes Creek. Beautiful airport, sightseeing tours, banner towing, also a lot of flight training. It's turned into one of the busiest non-towered airports in the state. And then we also have Space Coast Regional Airport. I like to call it the mothership. It's 1,650 acres. It's where a majority of the development will be over the next planning period. At Space Coast, we have 2 runways. Our primary runway is 7,300 feet long, 150 feet wide. We're capable of accommodating narrow-bodied aircraft or any corporate jet that's currently in the fleet. We have air traffic control tower. We have all the navigation aids. We also have aircraft fire rescue services there. And we have a lot of unimproved property that will eventually be developed. So collectively in the county, our 3 airports represent 340 based aircraft and about 250,000 aircraft operations. All right, at Space Coast Regional Airport, we also have our designated area for our licensed spaceport for future horizontal launches at the recently branded Exploration Spaceport. Our license was issued in 2020. Again, it's for horizontal, not vertical. We're one of 14 FAA licensed spaceports in the nation, and I'm here to tell you there's more in the pipeline now as these states and municipalities look at the job creation and the economic value of having a spaceport. So a lot of this is conceptual, future horizontal launches, point-to-point operations. Obviously, we still at this point need to pay our bills, so really our niche is going to be manufacturing, training, research development, payload processing, satellite transport, search and recovery missions, and also tourism. I'm sure everyone knows Space Perspective is one of our anchor tenants on the east side of the airport. I got here about 2.5 years ago, and they just came on board. They're up to 130 jobs, and they've gobbled up all of our vertical real estate on the east side. We also have a new company that's going to be constructing a satellite payload processing facility on the south side of the airport. Very excited about that. We are currently undertaking comprehensive master plans for all 3 airports and the spaceport. So we're literally doing 4 master plans at one time. We thought it was a great idea at the time. I do not recommend it. It's a lot of work. But with the prospective tenants and the current clients that we have, multimodal, it continues to be brought up, particularly at Space Coast, which again is 1,650 acres. Of course, we have the aviation check marked. It's what we've done for a long time there. We have very close proximity to the Space Center, I-95, 528, and also 407. So we have great roadway access. Captain Murray, we have ties to Port Canaveral. We have a lot of charter flights that come in that drop off folks that are going to ships. So they're dropped off, shuttled to the port, and then vice versa coming back. We're also looking at potential uses for the OUC dock. Dale talked about the wharf study. We're part of that. Obviously, that would be kind of small boat recovery. And then on the east side of the airport, our property abuts up to the rail, so we're looking at a possible rail spur in the future. We'll be obviously collaborating with the TPO on our upcoming master plan. We finished up the data portion of it, so now we're getting into the fun stuff, the preferred alternatives. So we'll be back to the TPO with that. I think that's me. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
Now introducing Eva Ray, Vice President, Community Management and Communications with the 𝗧𝗏 Company. Next will be the Canaveral Port Authority.
Good morning, everyone. All right, let's get started. For 34 years, we have been building a city. Roads, sewers, landscaping, stormwater infrastructure, homes, businesses, parks, sidewalks, trails, bridges, and anything else that you would imagine that goes into creating a large-scale master plan community. As the master developer for 𝗧𝗏, the 𝗧𝗏 Company understands the importance of transportation and what is needed to create safe and efficient roadways for people to travel on. From the very beginning, we made the commitment to build these roadways and partner with our other governing bodies to ensure 𝗧𝗏 is a regional player in our multimodal transportation network. And as you can see from these demographics, we still have a long way to go. 𝗧𝗏 is not quite halfway there in its development. We still have about 25 years left to go. But our roadway and trail network is planned out through the end of development, and we will continue to pivot where necessary. The great advantage of long-range planning is that it is possible to be flexible enough to change as the needs of the community changes. Over the past 34 years, the 𝗧𝗏 Company has invested over $300 million in the construction of collector and arterial roadways and the improvement or enhancements of multiple regional intersections. This does not even include the construction of neighborhood roadways and related infrastructure. As 𝗧𝗏 expands south and west, new roadways and the expansion of current roadways will be constructed. Of note is the partnership with Brevard County for the 𝗏𝗿𝗂𝗎 extension. The 𝗧𝗏 Company has a monetary obligation in our development order for this project when the county is ready. This much requested connection is in the county's long-range transportation plan. Another example of a future roadway is the Spyglass flyover, which is also asked about often from curious residents and business owners who have noticed the decades-old sign on Spyglass Hill Road. This project will provide another east-west roadway over I-95 with no interstate ingress or egress. This project is in 𝗧𝗏's development order and is timed with the use of our Phase 4 entitlements. Oh, that was my last slide. Thank you for your time today and for the opportunity to participate in the Space Coast Planning Transportation's Organization's State of Transportation. We are honored to stand among our Space Coast municipalities and transportation partners as we all have the same goal, to make our transportation network as safe and efficient as possible. Thank you.
Right. Introducing Captain John Murray, CEO and Port Director of the Canaveral Port Authority. Next will be Cape Canaveral.
Morning, everyone. I think most of you are familiar with the port, so I'm going to jump right into the nitty-gritty. Canaveral Port Authority is an economic engine for this community and for the state of Florida as a whole. Just the statewide impact is about $6.1 billion. We just had this study done last year. We've directly have 43,000 jobs that are impacted by our existence, along with $2.1 billion in wages. And a lot of money is collected, $190 million nearly in taxes to other entities, not to the Port Authority, but other entities that benefit from our existence. This past year, we just finished in September, our fiscal year, we did a record 6.8 million cruise guests, passenger transfers to the port. Our prior record was 4.6 million in 2019, and our prior year was 4.1 million. So a significant jump in 1 year. Next year, we're budgeting for 7.3 million and a similar number of ship calls, cargo tonnage, and cargo ship calls. The point here is that our passenger traffic continues to increase, and with that comes more trucks, more cars, more buses, and takes us to the driver behind my presentation here today. Our growth continues. It's good news for the area, it's good news for the region, but we need good roadways and bridges, and our challenge is State Road 528 and 401 bridge. The bridge is a drawbridge. It's old. It's built in 1964. It gets stuck open on occasion. It's a critical point of failure for us in the port. Everything on the north side of the port, from cruise terminals to cargo terminals to petroleum distribution to the Space Force, has to go over this bridge. It's in need of replacement. We have a PD&E study that's currently underway for that bridge. The 528 is the corridor that comes into the bridge. The last PD&E study on that was done in 2006. So we're behind on this, and meanwhile our growth continues exponentially, both in passenger traffic and cargo traffic and tourism in general in the area. Just to throw a number out there, we did almost 2 million vehicles that we can count in fiscal year 23. That includes about 329,000 trucks that are coming in and out of our port, as well as 826,000 passenger vehicles. We can track these easily because trucks have to interchange in and out, so we know them. And the vehicles are all passengers that have parked in our garages. That number continues to increase, both numbers. And the challenge is the road infrastructure is not there growing at the same rate as the business. So with that, we'd like to urge the Florida Department of Transportation, specifically District 5, to push along these two projects. My understanding is until they're elevated to the state level in Tallahassee, there won't be funding for them. So we're going to continue to push for both of these projects to move forward. I think we're finally making some progress with District 5, and we had a few hurdles to overcome earlier this year, and my indication now is that we're past those. Let's move this project to Tallahassee and get it funded. So that's my report. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Captain Murray. Now introducing Mayor Wes Morrison of the City of Cape Canaveral. Next will be Cocoa Beach.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Wes Morrison, and I have the honor and privilege to serve the citizens and community of the City of Cape Canaveral, Florida. I want to thank Space Coast TPO and all those organizations for hosting this event today. We have a great team in Cape Canaveral. I want to recognize hard work of Lexi Miller and the team, and Council Member Don Willis, who've both been really leading this charge and working with the organizations to do the long-term planning and the initiatives that are important to our community. So here are the latest updates here from the City of Cape Canaveral. Cape Canaveral's vision statement is something that we're very proud of. We have many workshops with our citizens to create this message. The vision statement also aligns with much, as we heard earlier, with the long-range transportation plan pillars. And so words that you'll see bolded up there or emphasized are safety, multimodal options, linking transportation with land use, sustainability, and resiliency. And a perfect example of this is shown in our unique Wagner Pocket Park here on North Atlantic heading into the port. This park features permeable pavement, native vegetation, mid-block crossings, bike repair stations, a transit stop, and it is complete with community personality like a peacock-shaped bike rack. And if you've ever driven through the City of Cape Canaveral, you immediately might think that our city bird is the peacock. So the two projects that represent the future of transportation are the state road A1A improvements and the presidential streets master plan. Oh, excuse me. There we go. So A1A is a road, as we all know, that cuts right through our city, not only impacting our residents, but I would say pretty much everyone in the room at some point. We're currently working on the large-scale A1A improvement project as a partner with FDOT and TPO. This is driven by land use, safety, and obviously proximity to the port to be that multimodal hub. Our citizens have been extremely active in this process, and FDOT has been true with, again, the efforts of all the local organizations to their word, to listening to our community so that we can achieve those goals. Our Presidential Streets Master Plan is a local in scale because it's where most of our single-family homes are located within Cape Canaveral. Here we're focused on accessibility, walkability, bikeability, and most importantly, flood mitigation. So on this slide, you can see the community engagement that we've taken with this project. It's a 25-plus year plan with a short and long-term goals. We'll be adding bike and pedestrian facilities with lighting improvement, and we'll continue that focus on flood mitigation with green stormwater, low-impact development infrastructure, and by the end, we'll hopefully achieve a relevant sense of place with community accessibility. My closing comments are, I want to make sure that we keep the momentum working together with all of us here so that we can benefit our residents, our businesses, and the Space Coast with a safer A1A with FDOT, the TPO, and other community partners here. And I think we can do that if we keep our eye on the goal. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Morrison. Now introducing Jared Francis, Assistant Public Works Director and City Engineer of the City of Cocoa Beach. Next will be Satellite Beach.
Thank you. I'm Jared Francis, like you said, with the City of Cocoa Beach. I'm the city engineer, and I'm going to talk some about, obviously, the state of transportation in Cocoa Beach. So either you are familiar with Cocoa Beach in general, but we have just under 12,000 permanent residents, but estimates say we see a little over 2 million visitors annually. So that poses a challenge for us, obviously, because we have a tax base of under 12,000, but our roads are experiencing significant wear and tear from visitors and that sort of thing. So that's a challenge. But also, there's only 3 ways into Cocoa Beach, and that's Atlantic from the south, north, or 520 from the east, which, as you know, those are state roadways. So the 2 main roadways in the city of Cocoa Beach are owned by the state. And so we're kind of limited on what we can do, which we're fortunate to have a good relationship with DOT, and with the TPO and with the county. So they've been great partners on projects, but that does present a challenge for us. And some of the things that DOT has going on right now, though, let me back up for a second. With that, obviously, you see in the picture there, we have massive events on the beach, and that presents a challenge with traffic, because obviously there's a lot of traffic, a lot of cars on the roadway, and so on one hand, you want to move cars as quickly as possible, but as we know, more cars means more accidents and more threat to vulnerable roadway users. So one of the projects DOT has going on right now is the addition of some mid-block pedestrian signals on A1A, and those should be constructed or activated either into this week, early next week. So they've been constructed. They're working on power to those right now. So we're excited about that. Those are kind of experimental in the state. There's not many of them, but we have a couple of them going in. And then just kind of the vision for Cocoa Beach. I mentioned some of the challenges. We want, obviously, safe and equitable mobility for all. We've signed on, like every other municipality in here, to the Vision Zero goal of 0 fatalities and serious injuries on the roadway. So that's a big push for us. Efficient, like I mentioned, we're trying to move cars as quickly as we can, but also safely, and so that involves intelligent transportation systems and partnering with the county and coordinating with the other municipalities on A1A like Cape Canaveral, Satellite Beach, and trying to support those efforts as best we can. And then encouraging multimodal options, like working with SCAT. Several of us just went to a bus station pop-up event that SCAT did in Cocoa Beach, and so that's a big push for us. And then lastly, resilient. I mentioned that there's only 3 ways into Cocoa Beach, which means there's also only 3 ways out. And so when there's emergency evacuations, we're limited on getting people in and out, especially with State Road 520, because it floods. It's very low, so that's something we're pushing for, and working with the TPO on is raising 520. And so that's it for Cocoa Beach. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jared. Now introducing 𝗟𝗏𝗃, the city planner with the City of Satellite Beach. Next will be Indian Harbor.
Good morning. So I'm just going to present a brief snapshot of current transportation priorities and concerns for the city of Satellite Beach. We're a smaller beach town just south of Cocoa Beach. Our concerns are related to our mostly local transportation network. We're bounded on which is bounded on the west side by South Patrick Drive, east side by A1A. So currently, we are creating more, our priorities, are creating a more walkable, bikeable community, identifying opportunities to increase multimodal connectivity, completing the Jackson Avenue Streetscape project, and the current level of service of South Patrick Drive is one of our developing concerns. So Satellite Beach continues to prioritize a more walkable and bikeable community. Transportation network consists of a grid of local residential streets bounded by state roads A1A and South Patrick Drive to the east and the west. In the short term, city staff will be reviewing and amending the goals, objectives, and policies of the transportation element of our comprehensive plan to promote safe connections for cyclists and pedestrians throughout our local network and connecting to those regional facilities. We will be performing complete streets evaluations on primary through streets, which run east to west between A1A and South Patrick Drive, and also identifying opportunities to fill in sidewalk gaps, install bike racks and repair stations on all public property, and include bikeways in all road development projects that come along. So this slide is highlighting a recent opportunity where we were able to increase connectivity between our local network and A1A through a requirement of future development to provide a 15-foot easement and construct a wide sidewalk which will connect our local streets to the sidewalk project being constructed along A1A as part of FDOT project. The Jackson Avenue Streetscape project involves Jackson Avenue, which is one of the primary through streets in the city, includes access points for community center, commercial businesses, several schools, residences, and our future firehouse. The Streetscape project will improve the safety of the multimodal travel along the road, as well as improving design, stormwater management, and adding street trees. Currently, the design plans are at 90%, and construction is anticipated to begin next year with funding awarded from the TPO of $1.9 million, which we are, thank you very much. Finally, South Patrick Drive segment in the city has a level of service approaching F and has been identified in the TPO 2022 State of the System report as the 6th most congested corridor among those with volume to capacity ratio greater than 85%. As redevelopment occurs in the city of Satellite Beach, issues related to concurrency and adding trips to this particular roadway segment are serious considerations when we're reviewing development. This slide shows proposed development that is currently under review, which includes 44 townhomes and several commercial businesses. And those will be accessing South Patrick Drive. That's all I have. Snapshot of what's going on now in Satellite Beach.
Thank you, Erica. Now introducing John Coffey, City Manager of the City of Indian Harbor Beach. Next will be Indy Atlantic.
All right. As a built-out barrier community similar to Satellite Beach, our transportation priorities are slightly different from our growing neighbors in the county. Our 3 priorities is reducing the speed limit on South Patrick, similar to our sister city. We see it as a safety issue and a fairness issue in that A1A has a lower speed limit than South Patrick, but South Patrick has more pedestrian and bicycle use, and there's homes that have driveways that back straight out into a 40-mile-an-hour thoroughfare. We also see it as an equity issue because the bulk of our city, between A1A and South Patrick, low-speed vehicles can drive throughout the city. But our residents who live west of South Patrick, they can drive to their neighbor's house and then drive back to their driveway in their low-speed vehicle, and they can't cross South Patrick. We've recently been told FDOT's working on a redesign that will include a road diet. However, they're unwilling to consider lowering the speed limit until that repaving project is completed. Our two other priorities is increasing the connectivity of our sidewalk system and implementing Vision Zero initiatives. Everybody is on board with Vision Zero in our city until you start talking about specific projects. And so we've got a couple small ones that we're doing this year to try to get some early wins and build on that momentum. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Now introducing Deputy Mayor 𝗬𝗏𝗏 of the town of Indy Atlantic. Next will be the town of Melbourne Beach.
Good morning. Okay, yeah, town of Indy Atlantic. I'm 𝗬𝗏𝗏. I'm the deputy mayor of the town of Indy Atlantic. I'm also the shortest guy here, I think. We talk a lot about in Indy Atlantic, roads. How do we get on and off the island? And that's what this slide's about. Let me start. I'm going to use my pointer. But we start off, and you can't see. It's hard to see the pointer. I apologize. But this is Indian River Lagoon, and on the other side is the Atlantic Ocean. Thus the name Indy Atlantic. Pretty simple. Our main road coming in and out is the Melbourne Causeway. That's US 192. Has about, as you can see from the slide, this was, I think, 2021, if I'm not mistaken. It was 34,000 vehicles a day. It's a lot of traffic. That traffic's going to go in one of two places. It's either going to go straight across and go to A1A. That traffic was around 21,000 vehicles a day, and still is, probably a little more now. And then if it goes A1A, it's going to go south. Southbound was, I got to look at the number, 19,600, and that was in 2022. That number is going up. It's going up a lot. There's a lot of building in the South Beaches. This includes Melbourne Beach, includes south of Melbourne Beach, which is usually referred to as Melbourne Beach.
South Beaches.
Yeah, we call it South Beaches. The rest of the world calls it. And we have the same problem right in Indy Atlantic. By the way, Indy Atlantic is a 1 square mile community. Our south border is Melbourne Beach. Our northern border is Long Doggers, the big, anyway, Long Doggers is the north end of it. So we are 1 square mile. We have 3,000 residents, and about 2,500 of them vote. So just to give you an idea. Our big issue here is resiliency. I'm going to flip these fairly quickly, if I go the right direction. So we do have SCAT comes through. We have a couple routes, not particularly used by our residents. It's very much from mainland to Indy Atlantic and north. I bring up this slide. This is an important one. Well, it's Hurricane Ian. This is the West Coast. Why is that important? And I'm going to spend just a minute here and run over. I apologize. But in August, a number of us went to the League of Cities conference. At the League of Cities conference, we met a lady. Her name is Holly Smith. She was the mayor of Sanibel, now council member. Holly is an amazing person to meet. She tells a good story. She tells a story of what happened during Hurricane Ian. Hurricane Ian was not predicted to land in Fort Myers. It wasn't predicted to do damage to Satellite Beach. The reality was it did take out the causeway. It took out, the harbor. Lots of, boats were gone, and it really reaped havoc. Holly told me that when that causeway went out, every pole on Satellite Beach was down, every power pole. Every home was damaged. Every business was damaged. It was to the point that she was on the phone with the governor and the president in order to get assistance. And luckily, everything came together, and they're working their way back to existence. That can happen here. So there's been a lot of studies done on that. East Central Florida Regional Planning Council did some excellent work on that. You'll see 6 studies on the one side, plus the one that we participated in here. And that was the perils of flood. We did that in 2018. A lot came out of that. One more. And guess what? TPO is busy with planning resiliency. Beachside resilience, transportation resiliency specifically. if we look at some of the numbers, this is one of the best slides I've ever seen to summarize what these communities look like. 585,000 residents in Brevard County. 1 in 4 residents are over 65. 1 in 3 households have someone with disability. 1 in 3 are below the poverty line. 1 in 20 households don't have a car. Now, as I've said, South Beaches is building. It's growing quickly. How do we move those people? How do, in an emergency? I don't have a good answer for you. I will tell you, it can happen here. This was 2004, those who were here, and it was one hell of a year. I can't describe it any other way. When you have Jim Cantore on your boardwalk, you have a problem. We had Jim Cantore on the boardwalk. So just keep that in mind. He's one of those people you just don't want to see. So that's kind of the story here. Our focus is resiliency. We'd like to work with everyone else. We want to work with Melbourne Beach. We want to work, we've got to solve this problem. And as far as US 192, which made the news, made television last couple of weeks. Any questions, talk to me later. So I'm Stu Glass. I am with In the Atlantic and Wyatt, sorry. So give me a call anytime. Thank you very much.
Thank
Wyatt, you're up.
Thank you, Stu. Now introducing Mayor Wyatt Hoover of the town of Melbourne Beach. Next will be Melbourne.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate the introduction by my counterpart in Indy Atlantic. We have all those same concerns, obviously, in Melbourne Beach. I wanted to talk more specifically about one really big concern that we have in Melbourne Beach. I think we were one of the first towns in the county to sign on with the Vision Zero plan, and our ability to live up to that standard, I think, is really not clear at the moment. As Stu mentioned, population in Brevard, East Central Florida, has been growing, and we're one of the first towns on 192 that people come to the beaches. I think the average Stu mentioned was around 20,000 people coming south through Melbourne Beach to the South Beaches. On a holiday weekend or just a nice beach day type of weekend, we'll see between 30 and 40,000 vehicles go through our community. This changed a lot in 1965, I think, when the Sebastian Inlet Bridge was built. Prior to that, we were kind of the end of the road community and a bit sleepy. And we're still similar to Indy Atlantic, a mile square, a little over 3,000 people. The big change is that A1A currently presents a giant wall between about 98% of our community and the beach. And when you live and visit Melbourne Beach, you want to go to the beach. When you have 20 to 40,000 cars going on that road, it's just really challenging to be safe. Currently, along A1A, we have, I think, 2 crosswalks for about a 1.5 mile stretch. So we would all have to walk about 3/4 of a mile to get to a crosswalk before crossing the street to get to the beach. Even with those crosswalks, a couple of years ago, we had a few children on little scooters be hit in the crosswalk and have to be airlifted to Orlando. So if this is a little bit of a Debbie Downer talk, I apologize, but it's a pretty sober environment for us right now. We're obviously continue to work on a lot of other things in the community and do what we can within our residential streets, but A1A is the biggest concern and the biggest challenge. I believe the community was pretty excited about a proposed redesign of A1A, similar to what took place in Indy Atlantic and the rest of A1A north of us up to 𝗬𝗏 Causeway, with a significant amount of crosswalks and other pedestrian infrastructure. I've been told that it seems that might be just a repaving project instead. And so that obviously was a big disappointment, and I hope our partners at the state level will find a way to delay that if that's necessary, or figure out a way to redesign it and move forward with the needed changes to keep our communities safe as was originally planned. So that's what we're up to, and that's what we're concerned about. I hope we can find a way to work together to keep everybody safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Hoover. Next, we have Todd Corwin, the planner with the City of Melbourne.
Good morning, everyone. I am a planner for the City of Melbourne. My name's Todd Corwin. I've lived in Brevard County for over 30 years, worked for Brevard County and the City of Melbourne. The City of Melbourne has a latest population estimate from Bieber of 87,000 people. One of the most important transportation projects for the city is the widening of Ellis Road. That is because the Melbourne Orlando Regional International Airport, is a major employer with employers such as Northrop Grumman, Embraer, Dassault, and there are freight concerns as well as transportation for both passengers and employees coming to this area, to that major employment center. Here is a slide showing you Ellis Road and the extent of the widening project, which is critically needed to connect I-95 to the airport and eventually become a strategic intermodal system 4-lane facility. The city is committed to the Ellis Road project and is partnering with Brevard County and the Florida Department of Transportation. City Council has made a commitment. They've not adopted a resolution, but they have made a commitment for $1.1 million towards the completion of this critical project for the reasons that I spoke of previously. There are two other major projects going on in the City of Melbourne right now. One is a safety project on South US 1 from the Crane Creek Bridge down to University Boulevard. This facility for pedestrians and bicyclists and motorists needs some safety improvements, and this project will add both improvements from a pedestrian standpoint as well as some streetscape improvements to enhance that road and make it both a safe and aesthetically pleasing project. Here is another project. This project is evolving. It's an ongoing project within the City of Melbourne, but it also is on the TPO's high injury network when it comes to looking at Vision Zero and the roadways that have been identified as having significant injury issues. This project will, it's on East New Haven in the downtown Melbourne area, will make the area more bicycle friendly, as well as adding wide sidewalks and some streetscaping to slow traffic down and to make it a more pedestrian and bicycle friendly facility. And these are the projects that the City of Melbourne have completed recently or are under completion. These projects are, as you can see here, are been prioritized by the city for multimodal uses. There are 3 complete street projects, Hickory, Pineapple, and Front Street. These projects were all needed because of high pedestrian and bicycle usage along those corridors. Another project is the NASA Boulevard Sidewalk Project, a project in the airport area that on a major facility that did not have any sidewalks for pedestrians. And then the Southwest Trails Project, which is a project in the south portion of the city, which increases bicycle and pedestrian mobility in that area as well. And again, the City of Melbourne is committed to those multimodal projects as well as projects that increase the safety and mobility for all motorists, pedestrians, and bicyclists within the City of Melbourne. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Todd. Now introducing Tim Rohde, the City Manager of the City of West Melbourne. Next will be the Melbourne Orlando Airport.
Good morning, all. Good morning. Thank you to the TPO for letting us have this opportunity to talk about some projects. Obviously, Ellis Road is such a big project for the region, and I want to thank everybody, not only who works during the day to help get Ellis Road going, and all the people who are committed time after work and doing all the events and going to all the special meetings to try to make this project happen. So with that, I'm going to talk about, since we're talking about the future, I'm closing my eyes and I'm envisioning this great day of us cutting the ribbon on Ellis. So I'm going with the assumption that Ellis is going to happen. And so we're moving on to the next big project in the city of West Melbourne that we're looking for some support on, which is trying to improve some safety along Mitten Avenue. Our very good friends to the south, Palm Bay, a lot of those good, fine residents like to go north to the other good city, Melbourne, and other areas. And so unfortunately for our good citizens in West Melbourne, they have to deal with all that commuting traffic. And so one of the things that we want to try to do, and the TPO has helped in the past, and we want to try to continue this ball rolling, which is to improve some safety along Mitten Avenue. And so that's our big safety project that we're looking for. Cliff had paid me $5 to yield the rest of my time for him at the airport. And so again, hopefully everybody's familiar with Mitten, and we're looking for some help to improve 6 of those key intersections to help with not only pedestrian safety, but traffic safety. So we very much appreciate the partnership that West Melbourne's had with the TPO and all the fine people in this room. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Now introducing Cliff Graham, Director of Operations and Maintenance of the Melbourne Orlando International Airport. Next is Palm Bay.
Good morning. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it. Like you said, my name is Cliff Graham. I've worked at the Melbourne Orlando International Airport for the last 28 years, and I'd like to say that I pretty much grew up there. Something I'm pretty proud of. Anyway, here's MLB at a glance. Our airport is an independent authority, similar to Kevin's situation, and that really it makes us be able to act more like a business. We're more competitive than maybe some other governments. We're really like a small city. There's 2,400 acres at our airport, and we have about 20,000 people on the airport in any given day. Our budget last year was about $41 million, and things are really happening at the airport right now. Our airport aircraft operations are up, and we had over 701 passengers last year. MLB is known throughout the country, really, as an aerospace hub. And we've got tenants like Northrop Grumman and Embraer executive jets, L3 Harris, and our newest tenant, high-tech partner, is Dassault Falcon Jet. We're really excited about that. They've just broken ground on their facility. This is our new hotel. It's the Hyatt Place Hotel. It's located directly next to the terminal, and it just opened up a few weeks ago, and I'm really happy to report that it's got a 94% occupancy already. It's doing really well. There's a rooftop restaurant and bar slated to open soon there, which will give people a really great venue and an opportunity to, look at the pretty lights on the airfield at night. Also in the works, as part of this hotel, is a general aviation aircraft parking area behind the hotel. So the hotel is being billed as a flying hotel. So if you have a general aviation aircraft, you can fly in, park, and stay at the hotel, or maybe take an Uber to the beach. It's going to be pretty cool. So we've got some major projects happening at the airport. We've been very fortunate to receive over the last several years over $200 million in grants, and that's mostly from the state, the FDOT, and also the federal government, the FAA. And some of those projects our terminal renovation and expansion. That's a $72 million project. We just completed phase 1. It's beautiful. All 3 of our runways have been rehabilitated. They're in really fine shape. We have a new air traffic control tower. That's pictured right here. It's working great. Our old tower was built in 1962. It was 65 feet tall. It didn't have an elevator. It couldn't see everything on the airfield. So this new tower is 105 feet tall. You can see everything. It's high tech. It's great. Has an elevator too. The controllers are real happy about that. We have a new we've remodeled the U.S. Customs facility. It's got a new baggage claim. I tell you, our customs facility is really awesome from a passenger perspective. We have the baggage first concept, so when international passengers get off their flight into Melbourne, it's a short walk into the bag claim. They get their bags first, and then they process through CBP. And we also have the simplified arrival process, which it's all biometrics, fingerprints. They take a picture of your face, and the passengers get through CBP really quick. And the next project we're working on is a baggage handling system, which will accommodate both the domestic and international bags, outbound bags. So the first phase of our terminal expansion and renovation is complete. You see up there it says we have 3 new gates. We actually have 4 new gates. We just completed the 4th one. That's in service now. We have a 5-lane TSA security checkpoint, and that's significant because our old checkpoint was only 2 lanes, and it was really inadequate, but the new checkpoint is really doing well. Now we have new food, beverage, and retail upstairs in our hold room. I mentioned the CBP expansion. Also, we have a beautiful welcome center now. Here's a few pictures of some of that work that's been completed. These are our domestic airline partners currently at MLB. We've got Delta, American, Allegiant, Sun Country, and Avelo. Delta and American have served this community and the airport for many years. Specifically, Delta Airlines. They've been at Melbourne continuously since 1984, coming up on 39 years, and that's a really big deal for this community. Next, talk a little bit about our international service, and that's pretty new to Melbourne and to our area. We have TUI Airlines out of the UK. It's a seasonal charter airline. We have a 9-year agreement with TUI Airlines, and as a result, we've seen a real uptick in our international passengers. We had 240,000 passengers last year. This year, the 2nd year that TUI came to the area, they positioned one of their cruise ships at Port Canaveral. They own Marella Cruises, and that's gone really well, and we're very proud of the continuity and the relationship that we have with the port now as a result of that. 2 Sundays ago at the airport, we had the busiest passenger day ever in our existence, mostly because of TUI. We actually had 6 flights from TUI that day, and to put that in perspective, they fly the Boeing, the 787, the Dreamliner, both the Dash 8 and the Dash 9. The Dash 8 holds 300 passengers, and the Dash 9 holds 345, so it was a pretty big deal. We had over 5,000 passengers that day in total. And last slide, yeah, Ellis Road. It's interesting. I appreciate everybody who's already talked about Ellis Road. And this project is very significant to our airport. It's interesting. It's not on airport property, but it is the most significant transportation project that we face right now. Connectivity, good, efficient connectivity is so important. And you can really see in the picture in the foreground, that's that new interchange, exit 182, and what a fine job the FDOT did. But you can see the issue, the problem. Ellis Road, 1.6 miles, the bottleneck. It's really obvious in that photo. And then in the background is the airport. That's our main runway. To the right of the main runway, that's our parallel taxiway Alpha. So you can see the problem, but you can also see the opportunity that exists for better connectivity. And I really do want to thank everyone in the room that is working hard on this project. There's a lot of smart people working on it, and we just need to come up with the funding to get it built. All the plans are there. It's ready to go. It's just need to get over that last hurdle. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Cliff. Next, we have Susan Sherman, the city manager of the city of Palm Bay. Next will be Malabar.
Thank you, Sarah. So good morning, everyone. I'm Suzanne Sherman, the city manager for the city of Palm Bay. It's great to be here with you all this morning. Just briefly, I wanted to talk about Palm Bay and some of the challenges we're dealing with and what we're working very hard on. For those who don't know, we are the largest city in Brevard County. We are over 88 square miles. Our last FPL meter population count estimate was that we have exceeded 135,000 in population. Within the last year, we added about 7,000 in population, And the years before that, for about 3 years steady now, we've averaged 5,000 new residents. So we have that compounding a situation that was part of our history and our legacy that we're working to overcome, which is that we were a general development corporation community, which meant that a large portion of the city was pre-platted, road networks put down, and so the opportunities to plan new things are somewhat limited in the core of our city. So we have 3 real primary strategies we're working on to deal with our issues right now. The first one is the obvious need for capacity improvements. If you've been in and around Palm Bay anytime recently, you know there are some areas that are definite bottlenecks. We were talking about Ellis Road, definitely a need there. In our situation, the Malabar 95 interchange is a huge bottleneck issue. So we're looking at capacity improvements that we can make in the surrounding roads that we control, but obviously that's fairly high on our list and a growing concern for capacity at that interchange at 95. Beyond that, we have some other major roadways that we're working on investing in. Thanks to a partnership with the TPO, we were able to secure funding. We put in about $7 million. We got another $3 million, and we are now doing the design for the widening of a section of Malabar between Minton and the St. John's Heritage Parkway. If you've been in that area, you know it's desperately needed too. So we're excited about that, but you know how it goes, right? Design, and then you got to get the right of way, and then construction. So time is ticking. We wish it was already done, but we're working on it. And there are several other projects. So really our first prong is the capacity. We're working with the TPO, throwing all of our impact fees and other funding sources and grants toward these major needs. We're also really focusing on things we can do that are incremental improvements. You know, things that should be obvious, but historically the city had not really invested in capitally, and I'm speaking of things like widening of intersections, adding turn lanes in places, things to improve the overall capacity of the system. The second prong is the synchronization and improvements of our overall flow, which is a huge need for us. So ITS is something we talk about. It's very important for us. Without ITS, our current roadway infrastructure and network cannot really improve at the level it needs to. So thankfully, we have had funding in partnership with TPO to do some design for ITS related to Malabar, San Filippo, and that's helped us a lot, and Emerson, I should say, and we're excited about that, but now we have to get to the funding stage, so we're working toward that. Also, we've received some allocation of federal energy efficiency block grants. We're going to use that toward ITS and traffic type improvements. And then our last and third prong, but it's very important for us because of our population, is we're using all of our strategies to provide education and enforcement. We talked about Vision Zero. Our law enforcement team is going after every grant and every funding source they can find to do additional outreach to our community. We were very active participants in the Stop on Red Week not too long ago. We're also actively exploring, you obviously know about the red light cameras at intersections, but we're actively exploring projects where we can do that in our school zones because we have so much traffic and so much need to get people to pay attention to each other. So that is really a big priority for us. It's the education and enforcement. And we're excited about the future because we have all the partnership of a lot of great people, but more to come. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Suzanne. Next, we have Mayor Pat Riley of the town of Malabar.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Pat Riley, town of Malabar mayor. One more year to go, and that's it. I'm an engineer, so my PowerPoint isn't too pretty. So I'm just going to talk about Malabar Road, Rocky Point Road, and the paving of our town roads and our town trails in conclusion. So Malabar has a population of 3,000, but we have 15,500 traffic count per day along Malabar Road. And Malabar has supported years ago the 4-laning of Malabar Road, and a PD&E was completed in 2018, and Malabar Road has continue to fall down in the priority list from 7 to 14. I like to bring that back up. And also I championed trying to get the speed limit lowered on Malabar Road. It used to be 55. Grant Road, Valkyria Road, and Micka Road were all 45, yet Malabar Road was 55. I was successful to get it down to 50, but I still think it should be 45. And the current conditions do not align with Vision Zero. We have a high speed, no shoulders on a road, ditches on both sides, no pedestrian facilities, and the deputy sheriffs won't even go out and check for speed because there's no place for anyone to get pulled over. We had hurricanes in 2022 that wiped out about 200 feet of Rocky Point Road, and we want to restore it, and we got some money now through FEMA a little bit and some of our town money to restore these roads. We also met with the Marine Resource Council to establish a living shoreline, and that was a great meeting, and they want to bring in modular wave breaks that was designed by FIT engineering students, and we have, the reason I want to do this is significantly less expensive than the current options as coquina rock, and it allows wildlife to traverse through this area, and we had already had a successful town meeting with residents and got their buy-in. The town of Malabar has also sponsored have the residents help pay for the roads, and we just completed paving Weber Road, and we prioritized our roads through a road analysis last year, and so Malabar just got a loan for $3.5 million to pave our roads within 3 years. And the best part about Malabar, we're a trail town, and we have over 20 miles of hiking, biking, and horseback riding. And we have residents that serve on the boards with y'all that help make things happen in Malabar. And the town of Malabar requests your continued support to improve the safety along Malabar Road, just as our town has invested in our local roads. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Riley. Let's have another round of applause for all of our first set of speakers. So at this time, we will be taking a 20-minute break. Please be back in your seats at about 10:32, 10:35. All right, welcome back. So before we get started back on our presentations, I did want to take a moment to pull up our Mentimeter. We are looking for feedback in regards to our long-range transportation plan goals today. So as Nick presented the 4 goals earlier this morning, this really is the basis of the vision that will lead the long-range transportation plan as we develop it and over the next 5 years of this iteration of the LRTP. So if you all could pull out your cell phones. I know I asked you to silence them, but you can use them quietly. And go to menti.com, MENTI.com. And you're going to enter in the code 66294224. That's 66294224. And what we're asking you to do is to rank our goals. So we have number 1 right now is provide a safe, secure, and equitable multimodal system for all users. Number 2 right now is enhance mobility and reliability of the transportation system for communities, tourism, and commerce. Number 3 is preserve and provide a sustainable, equitable, and resilient transportation system throughout balancing social and environmental resources. And then our 4th one right now is improve economic growth and overall quality of life with a connected and accessible multimodal system. So if you could just go in, and what you're able to do is you're able to pop those and order them in the order that you feel best represents where you feel the transportation system should go. So do you feel safety is most important, resiliency, multi-mobility, economic growth, land use? What is driving your vision of our transportation system of tomorrow? And I'm going to move on to the next question, but it won't you'll still be able to continue at your own pace. And so then the next question is, do you feel that these goals reflect the 2050 vision? So if we're looking at 2050 Brevard County's transportation system, are these goals the right direction? And it's just a simple yes or no. And then the last one, and this one I think is really fun, is what is your personal mobility goal for 2050? So maybe it's flying cars, more transit. We do have flying cars, reduce miles traveled by internal combustion engine, sustainability. It could be anything. You know, maybe you're following Dale into space to work up in space. You know, whatever might be your personal mobility goal for what you want to see the transportation of tomorrow be. All right, so this will keep running. So all throughout the morning, you can work at your own pace if you didn't get to do it just now. I would like to get back to our regularly scheduled program. So Nick, if you could pull up. All right. So welcome back once again. I hope you had an opportunity to grab some refreshments. We still have plenty of food and beverage back there. So I would now like to introduce Ken Harley, the Special Projects Coordinator with Space Coast Area Transit.
Good morning. We know that the port and the airport have rebounded from their pre-COVID ridership numbers, and if September is indicative of what Space Coast Area Transit is doing, we will eclipse our pre-pandemic ridership this year. We saw a 5% increase in ridership over September of 2019. Space Coast operates 23 fixed routes along with our ADA complimentary service, our Transportation Disadvantage program, and our Volunteers in Motion. We have limited services on Sunday, which operates 3 routes, routes 4, 6, and 9. Most of our service operates from 6:45 to 7:50 p.m. with the exceptions of our beach routes, which some end at 11:45. Most routes operate at a 60-minute headway, but our greatest ridership occurs on the routes that operates 20 to 30-minute headways, and those routes are 4, 6, 8, 9, 21, 25, and 28. Like each of our agencies, we all have needs, and we have an aging fleet that needs to be replaced. And we're constantly applying for grants, looking for revenue sources to replace our fleet. We applied for a low-no grant, but unfortunately we did not receive that grant. Our fleet average is about 12 years old. Our greatest need is having a centralized transit operations and maintenance facility, and that is also on our grant wish list. It is also in the Transportation Improvement Plan. We need to enhance our collaboration with our partners to ensure that transit amenities and transit is addressed in developments that are occurring throughout the county. Also, when streets are resurfaced, we need to ensure that sidewalks are ADA compliant and ensure that bus stops and provisions for shelters are provided. We also need cooperation with signal prioritization for our buses to keep them on time. We need to move forward with kiosks with real-time passenger information so people can know the location of their bus and how long they will have to wait. Everyone does not have smartphones, so they're not able to pull up 321 transit, so therefore, if kiosks with information was available, it'll make things a lot better for our public. We also need partnerships with amenities such as bus shelters, lighting, and benches in various cities. We need to collectively ensure that all of our bus stops are ADA compliant. There was a study done in 2018, And in that study, it has a list of all of our bus stops, and they're identified by cities as well as by routes. So if you're interested in that, Jim Scherfs, who's our transportation planner, can provide you information about your respective city. We need to continue to move forward into the 21st century with new technologies such as a smart card and mobile fare collection system. We need to have a seamless payment system so our passengers can just tap and go as they board the bus. This way it will save time and keep our buses on schedule. We also want to have automatic passenger scheduling software that a client can schedule their own transportation for the door-to-door service by utilizing their smartphone without having to call a reservationist. And funding is always a challenge that we face, but we need more local funding to help us to leverage our federal dollars. Right now, FTA is our major funding partner, followed by the Florida Department of Transportation. Some of our noteworthy projects. We are thankful to the TPO for providing funding for a mobility on demand feasibility study. Mobility on demand is the future for transportation, and we want to make sure we're on the cutting edge. We have previously updated the 321 transit app, and we need that to be more user-friendly, that all passengers will be able to use it and be able to obtain information about their respective bus. We have added Wi-Fi to the buses, but some passengers ask that there also be Wi-Fi at the transfer locations. We purchased 2 diesel electric hybrid buses, and we have 4 more that we're getting ready to order. This is our vision for tomorrow, to provide all persons living, working, or visiting Brevard County the opportunity to use transit in a safe, affordable, convenient, and sustainable way of traveling. Our vision will continue with mobility on demand. As people become less dependent on cars, we want people to become less dependent on cars and utilize transportation that they can depend on. We want to realign some of our routes, and we did a comprehensive operations analysis, and that had some suggestions in it that could help make our routes a little bit more efficient, and also some cost-saving measures that are found in there. We need to look at the integration of transit modes with other feeder modes, such as taxi, shared mobility service, car sharing, bike sharing, walking and cycling, to provide for that first mile, last mile connectivity. And we want to be on the forefront of technology as it advances. And we look forward to the day that there may be autonomous vehicles that could be used in our fleet, and the use of artificial intelligence. With artificial intelligence, we'll be able to re-examine the efficiency of our routes and be able to maximize the efficiency of our services that we provide. We want to improve the safety of all of our users of our transportation. People using transit must know and believe that they are safe, and this is a major priority for Space Coast Area Transit. We want to improve the economic development with a connected multimodal transportation system. Every dollar spent on public transit projects generate an average of $6 in local economic activity. We want to enhance mobility and reliability for everyone. We want to provide a resilient transportation system so citizens can depend on it in the event of a state of emergency, know that Space Coast Area Transit can meet their needs prior to an event and after an event. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ken. Next, we have Camille Tate. She is a transportation advocate. She is a board member of the Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board and both a local and state officer with the National Federation for the Blind.
Good morning, everyone. For those who don't know the National Federation of the Blind or the National Federation of the Blind of Florida, we are the nation's oldest and largest consumer organization of blind and low vision people, along with our sighted supporters who we consider to be blind at heart. The National Federation of the Blind of Florida has been in operation in the state of Florida since 1970. We, as an organization, worked towards what is now our Transportation Disadvantaged program, which is unlike any other program anywhere else in the country. We have a lot of goals when it comes to transportation for not just blind people, but for those who are disabled. At the end of the day, we all sort of live in the same boat. One of the things we strongly believe in is the Vision Zero. Too many of us have often been struck by cars while crossing the roads in our different cities, even though we are following the rules of the road, and sometimes the drivers are not. I used to walk. I live on Wickham Road between Lake Washington and Parkway, and I used to walk frequently along Wickham Road. I have not done so since last year. I was hit for the second time by someone who was going through a drive-through. So we believe strongly in Vision Zero, especially when it comes to pedestrian walkways. And in conjunction with that, we also would like to work with the SCTPO and the county on improving not just the bus stops, which the ADA compliance numbers are rather low, but also with the intersections and roadways. For example, Wickham and Lake Washington, the crosswalk to cross over Wickham Road is actually in the right-hand turning lane on Lake Washington. It makes it very difficult to cross. So we want to make improvements like that so more of us can safely walk on the sidewalks in the county in which we live. Now, when it comes to transportation, I really enjoyed hearing what Ken had to say, because one of the things we are looking forward to is increased technology and usability of our transit services. I do travel frequently across the state of Florida, and I use different types of transportation. And I would love to see mechanisms such as tap to go to pay, or we already have electronic bus passes, but in order to buy it when you're on the bus, things like that, being able to track the bus so we know where our buses are, not just fixed route, but paratransit. Many people who are disabled do use the paratransit system. So, when it comes to fixed route, that's great, but we also want it for paratransit too, because some of us are not able to use the fixed route system. So I'm hoping to work hand in hand with all of the agencies and within each city within Brevard County to bring some of those goals to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you, Camille. Next, we have Tom Engler, Director of the Center Planning and Development with NASA.
All right. Good morning, everybody, and thanks for the TPO for the invite to allow us to talk here. On behalf of Janet Petra, our Center Director, thanks, and want to kind of just go through where we are as a center right now. Our mission and vision are right here. It's something we actually redeveloped this year with the new focus and emphasis we have on partnering with commercial. It was actually a lot of our young folks on center helped develop this, which I think makes it even better. Igniting space exploration and discovery for all, which then allows us to provide continuous access to space from what is Earth's premier spaceport, and we'll show you in a minute why that is. And our focus on that is using creativity and innovation to allow us to do all of that. So, since the end of the shuttle program, we've obviously had a pretty significant transformation on center, just as the county has had with respect to how we are approaching spaceflight activities. One of the things that we had on center was a lot of capabilities, and we had no real use for those at the end of the shuttle program. So our master planning team came up with a mantra that was divest without diminish, and that was a neat key phrase, but it's actually shown out to work very successfully because we have outgranted over $1 billion in taxpayer-funded assets to our commercial partners. And from a competitive standpoint and the standpoint of making the concept of U.S. space flight more powerful and more effective, by outgranting those assets was a significant enabler for companies like SpaceX and Boeing, Lockheed Martin, to be able to create the capabilities that we have on center and more. Our 2011 landscape, it was shuttle. That's what it was. We flew out shuttle at the end of, or in July of 2011, last flight, and we had a lot of facilities that were dedicated to the shuttle program. And this is where I always like to throw in a couple of plugs here for our partners within the state. So you may or may not be aware that a number of years ago, the state of Florida legislature enabled or created a mode of transportation within the Florida Department of Transportation for space. So FDOT is actually funded for space infrastructure. You may or may not be aware, but that has played a big part in what we're doing on center with respect to enabling commercial activities. Space Florida, we're partnering with them often and successfully to make our assets available and to work with these commercial space companies in a way that NASA can't. We can't bring the economic leverage that FDOT and Space Florida can. TPO has also actually been a big partner for us, and I'll explain in a minute, for our Indian River Bridge. If you've driven on 405 onto Center, the new bridge, TPO had a huge hand in making that happen, along with FDOT and Space Florida. We, as NASA, did not have the money to fix that bridge, so in partnering with TPO, FDOT, Space Florida, we were able to leverage some federal grants to replace that bridge with the high flyer bridge that's in there now, and that's been a fantastic partnership. So what that brings us to is this is a subset of what we're doing on center right now. When we had our goals back in 2011, or we set out master planning goals, we had a goal of having 5 companies doing human spaceflight activity on center by 2025. Pretty audacious goal, because at that point only 3 countries had ever flown into space: United States, Russia, and China. So by laying that goal out there, it gave us something to work toward. And again, working with our state partners, we are very close to achieving that goal right now. When you look at that multi-user landscape, we have Boeing doing commercial human space flight, SpaceX obviously doing that as well. Blue Origin has plans for doing human space flight, and next year we'll see Lockheed Martin and the Orion capsule fly humans to space on the Artemis mission. So 4 companies already doing commercial human space activities. We have significant amount of property on center, 140,000 acres. It comprises about 80% of NASA's land holdings. We have a lot of factors that go into maintaining that ground. We work with the Fish and Wildlife Service to actually manage most of our lands. We have a lot of threatened and endangered species from a planning perspective. I just got the 1-minute sign, so I'm going to talk even faster. We have a number of planning considerations that factor into our planning and development. So you can see those laid out there. Wetlands, we are Florida, so we have a lot of those. Quantity distance arcs, those are areas that we cannot allow additional construction in because we have hazardous activities happening there. Obviously, being on center, having 140,000 acres, we've only developed about 7,000 of that. So we have a number of threatened and endangered species, and the other thing that we're factoring is sea level rise. That results in these spaceport growth boundaries. My time is up. And, and that is what allows us to, those are the areas that we're going to build in that are the least problematic from an environmental perspective and everything else. So that's, our planners have come up with these growth boundaries, and to help tie into that, what we're facing is a significant increase in our launch rate on center. You're seeing it almost every week, seeing flights coming out of the spaceport. This year we're expected to get to 70 flights, which is over 70, which is more than 1 a week. Within 5-6 years or so, we expect to be somewhere close to 250 launches a year. That presents some extreme infrastructure challenges for us. We distribute helium and nitrogen throughout the entire spaceport. There's power challenges, there's road challenges. So all of our transportation infrastructure goes past a launch pad. So when more launches means less ability to move stuff on center. And then of course, for the planners in the room, you know, these adaptation areas that we are working on, trying to ensure that we are protecting the valuable infrastructure that we have here, planning on the sea level rise, the additional impacts, you know, from the stronger storms that we're having. So all that's happening right now, and again, can't thank the state of Florida enough for how we're partnering with them on making these things happen. So again, been a great partnership, and thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Tom. I would now like to introduce Mark Bernath, the Director of Public Works with Brevard County.
All right. Well, thank you. When Sarah told me I had 2 hours for this, I decided to really go all out and, came up with a lot of slides. Now, actually, I followed the lead of the mayor of Malabar and, claimed engineer, so I didn't really put a lot of slides together. But I do have a lot of different notes that I have. And so having a very diverse set of responsibilities, I have a lot of different topics that I'm going to cover, and I really just focused on the questions that were presented, so I'll try to run through them really quick. I'm also a little hoarse, so I'll try to speak as quickly as I can. So what are our transportation needs? So first and foremost, my department is, very diverse. As Public Works, I have everything from facilities to roads and everything in between. Have a $162.8 million approved budget for this year for Public Works. But that sounds very impressive and like a lot, but it actually, a lot of that money is actually tied up. So from past projects, I have $84.1 million of it that is balanced forward, meaning that it's on projects already. And when you start looking at operations, personnel, other things, my finance people every year on average for the 3.5 years I've been there gives me about $5 to $6 million that I can actually spend on significant projects. So when it comes to the 𝗟𝗟's of the world or Hollywoods or major sexy big projects, $5 to $6 million is all I actually have as far as discretionary work. Brevard County as a region continues to have heavy concentration of advanced technology and engineering workforce, as you all know. With these high-tech people come high expectations. So for intelligent transportation systems, use of innovation, technology in management of our traffic systems. In the last decade, we've come a long way with the expansion of the countywide ITS system and the need to continue to grow with high technology and innovation. So we definitely need more funding, we need more personnel, and we're doing the best we can with the resources that we have. As far as are we doing something unique or noteworthy regarding transportation, we're not necessarily doing anything unique. We're not trying to be trailblazers from that perspective. We're trying to focus on continuous development of our services that we deliver, development of our employees, making good decisions with the proven technologies, and making incremental improvements where we can. It forms the foundation of future developments and innovations that we might consider. As far as vision for the transportation system for tomorrow, given our funding limitations, it makes sense to maintain a pragmatic approach to our vision for transportation for tomorrow and adapting to changing circumstances, while ensuring the sustainability of our transportation infrastructure is a realistic goal. So alongside that, as our population continues to grow, there's a need for fundamental shift in our travel behavior, and transportation intelligent transportation is not a solution by itself. A wishful vision is integrated public transit system that improves ridership for large demographic and balance riders' needs with their personal freedom and independence that comes with that. And so obviously we support everything that our partners in the transit department is doing, and everything that we're doing with ITS, as I alluded to, is not going to be a panacea. Our capacity shortfalls, which I'll get into in a moment, our backlog is $1.4 billion for Public Works. Our capacity shortfall itself is $600 million, and we are continuing to work within the confines of the budget that we're given to try to make a difference where we can. And ITS is going to help us on the fringes, but it's certainly not going to solve our problems. So I then took the liberty to just go over some those were like the three questions that we were sent by the Space Coast TPO. Now just real quickly go through a number of other topics. So I know this was said by a number of other folks, but 𝗟𝗏 is the Strategic Intermodal System Connector. And so Brevard County submitted this project for an infra grant in August. We continue to work with our partners. So first and foremost, FDOT is currently working on the submission or working on right-of-way. Right now, it's funded at about $34 million. And we worked with TPO and HDR to help us prepare for an infra grant submission. Alongside with our partners, the City of Melbourne and West Melbourne, we've collected about $34.2 million, but that still leaves us short about $46.9 million. We're hopeful that we'll get an infra grant, but that is all but certain or not certain at this point. If we do get funding, we'll start as early as 2026. We're currently working to put together a clearing and grubbing contract. If we're successful working with our utility partners, the intent is to start some early clearing and grubbing, get some advanced work done so that this way we'll be ready and we can drive that timeline to the left. Not sure yet whether we'll be successful in that, but we're trying to make sure that we're doing everything we can to do so. And whoever's doing the slides, you don't necessarily need to follow all that. That was just backup. Yeah. Hollywood continues to be, our number 2 project. At this point, we're at 60%. That project is kind of delayed. We just got that in. Costs have gone up significantly. So we're continuing to review what our options are. That is going to be critical to helping take capacity, especially in the south part of the county, off of other roads. We recognize that, but without the support of federal and state funding, not sure that we're going to be able to fund that ourselves. As I mentioned earlier on, I have about $5 or $6 million a year to put towards projects. Right now, with right-of-way acquisition, I'm guessing this project's going to be about $100 million, if not more. Again, we just got in the 60%. I'm going to be reviewing it with the team in about another 2 weeks or so, and we're going to reassess where we're at and whether or not we're on the right path. Right now, we're looking at possibly doing 3 phases. We may have to assess whether or not that's the best strategy. Traffic Management Center. Theoretically, we're funded at 100%. We'll have to see. We're currently doing a plans update. The Traffic Management Center will co-locate the TPO and Brevard County traffic operations off of Pineda Causeway. It will also help us significantly ramp up our capabilities and expand ITS. It will also, during emergencies, be able to host FDOT and also other municipalities in situations. So if we have, launches, if we have emergencies, it will give the ability for municipalities to sit with us, and it will also, as we continue to expand our staff in the future, allow us to control traffic more succinctly in a unified location. There's growing pressures on our transportation funds. So as cities continue to annex, to be quite frank, it's taking tax base away from us. We want to work, though, with our cities and look to partner where we can. So if there's opportunities out there for roads and drainage, if it makes sense to cities while we have the funding, we'd like to look for partnerships. If there's ILAs that we can enter into, if there's something where we can upgrade a road and then maybe you would take it over, if there is other financial relationships that make sense to you, please come talk to us. We would like to figure out ways to stretch our dollars and have it make sense. But what doesn't make sense, and I know we have limited say in it, is when the tax base is taken and the roads are left to us, and ultimately at the end of the day, our fuel taxes are, especially as we start shifting towards a greater reliance on electric vehicles, we're not going to necessarily have the tax base unless we do something different. So collaboration is key for us, and we're working right now with a number of cities, and we want to work with everyone. I already alluded to this, but our current backlog is $1.4 billion. That is not just transportation. That includes my facilities portfolio as well. The majority of it is capacity. That is about 600 or so million on capacity itself. Actually, I'm sorry, it is 851 million. We just had updated it. And just to put it in perspective, the Wickham corridor alone is 521 million of it, attributable to the very expensive right-of-way acquisition, making it really impractical. So one of the things that we are doing this year, realizing that we're never going to build our way out of it, is we put money in our budget, and we just got a proposal for a capacity mitigation study. So we're looking for ways that we can do turn lanes, continue to do more ITS, continue to make changes around the fringes. But again, that is not necessarily going to solve our capacity issues itself. But again, if we can work with any cities, we're looking for that. A lot of our work is focused on drainage. So we are all over the county, not to say these are the only locations, but we have a number of locations on Merritt Island, North Tropical, Del Sol, Oak Park in Melbourne, Whispering Pines, Lake Washington. We have a number of bridges that are either beyond their lifespan or aging out that we're working right now. Sea Ray Bridge, Miko Bridge, James Clark Pedestrian Bridge. We have 2 bridges on North Banana Bridge in Merritt Island, Central and Girard Bridge. Also have a number of sidewalk projects we're working. Aurora and Melbourne, Burnett and Cocoa, Bamboo, Cocoa, South Tropical, Irwin. And as most of you know, we're paving about 55 miles a year throughout the county, and then we've just added a lot of resurfacing or a lot of preservation to our portfolio. So we are all over the county and doing a lot in that space as well. For traffic operations, we just added vehicle detection systems at 19 intersections along Palm Bay Road corridor, and continuing to leverage technology where we can optimize accuracy. That is the end of my time, because I'm being told time's up. We're doing 1,000 other things, but we're a big department, big county, and but that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. Okay. Next, I would like to introduce Jack Atkins, the Director of Transportation Development with FDOT District 5.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Great to be here. Excited to always come down to Brevard County. Georgiana probably gets tired of hearing me say this, but I am a Brevard County guy. I'm from here, went to school here, and lived here till '95 when I went to DeLand. So it is a pleasure being here, and I feel like I want to let you guys know that, because I'm not just another guy sitting in DeLand looking at a chart. So when I see Malabar Road and I-95, I see Ellis Road on, I understand. And I still have family here that beats on me about Ellis Road about every time we get together. So I can't escape it. So what are we doing? What's the state of transportation? What's DOT's outlook? Well, when Secretary Perdue, and a lot of you know him, we had the pleasure of having him as our secretary in the district for a couple of years before he went on to the state, so that makes it really nice because I can still shoot him a text and kid around with him, but also get some answers. So that helps us a lot. But one thing that he did, every secretary comes in, they usually have their, perspective, what they're going to take a look at. Secretary Perdue kind of stood back for a while, and he kind of wanted to look at something that would give us all perspective and all thoughts, and it keeps us as an agency focused on where we want to go, and we call this the compass. And as you can see up there, all the parts of the compass, you have safety, we have resiliency, we have supply chain, technology, workforce development, and then at the very heart of it, and what we feel is very important, is communities. Years ago, when I started with the department almost 30 years ago, we kind of came into the area and said, get out of our way. This is the project. You will like it. And we would build it and get out. That doesn't happen anymore. We try to partner with our communities. We sit down, we develop coalitions, we listen to what the communities have to say. We still do have design criteria that we have to look at, but we try to incorporate what the citizens and the local folks want into their projects. And believe it or not, that seems to work a lot better than it did 30 years ago. So how can we accomplish some of those goals, and what are some of the things that we're looking at? So you guys probably may have already seen this, and you can see the population from the latest data in 2022 and where it's projected in 2050. But since I am from here, I kind of went back and I did a little digging, and I pulled up the population from 1950. I wasn't here then, close, but I wasn't here then. And it was 22,400 people. Can you guys imagine what Brevard County would look like with 22,000 people? And then in 1960, and I was here in 1960, it had increased to 111,000, a little over 111,000. Everybody probably knows what that driver was. That was the space program, right? I remember that because everybody's dad seemed to work at the space program but mine. He was a teacher, and I was always disappointed I couldn't get one of those U.S. government pins that everybody had. But tremendous impact. So that in those 10 years, population increased 5 times. So what are we looking at now? So between 111,000 and change to 627, once again, it has increased almost 5 times. Brevard County is a very diverse place. Back when I was growing up, it was all space program, right? And we've been on that roller coaster through the shuttle disaster. I was actually working private sector here as an appraiser, and we rode that roller coaster of the shuttle. First it was the Apollo program pulling out, then the shuttle disaster, and then space. The shuttle left, and diversified. But also in that time, we've had a lot of electronics companies coming in. We've had defense contractors coming in. So Brevard County really has become very diverse. The port has become a major player with the cruise industry. And I mean, you just look around at how diverse it is now. It's no longer just a space town. Brevard County is an amazing place. So what challenges do we face, and what are some of the things that we're looking at the department? One thing, we look at I-95. So I-95 is a major corridor, not only through Brevard, but through District 5, as well as the state of Florida and the east coast of the United States. A lot of challenges here. We see this in Orlando, where I-4 has basically become a commuter road as opposed to an interstate, and 95 is doing the same thing here. It's almost used as an arterial for people to get to work, to get home. It increases a lot of issues that we have out there and things that we have to manage. So 95, we've done some major projects. You got a divergent diamond in Viera, which those are, once you kind of get used to those things function so well. We've got the new interchange at St. John's Heritage Parkway near Ellis and John Rhodes. We have the southern end of that down by Micco. There's an interchange there. A lot of stuff going on with 95, but there's a lot going on as well. We looked at those population numbers before. The growth is amazing, and everywhere there's a large tract of land. I know up by 5A in Scottsmore, we've got folks with Miami Corp kind of starting to look at things. They've owned that land forever. So how are we going to manage those things? So the department has started a strategic plan for our 3-county area, 137 miles. There's 31 existing interchanges. So we're taking a look at that. We're seeing what we can do. What makes sense? We're considering this growth coming in. So how can we manage that? Well, one way, and I heard Ms. Sherman mention I-95 Malabar Road. It's an issue. We've heard it from our partners, and the department is just now launching a PD&E study, project development and environmental. We're getting kicked off with that. It's funded next fiscal year, 2025, to take a look at what we can do to help with that area. NASA Causeway Bridge, Tom mentioned that. Great project. We did partner with NASA, Space Florida. Really exciting project. It opened in 2023. The eastbound side, westbound, is still under construction and expected in 2026. Kind of a unique thing about that, besides the partnering that we were able to do and the grants that we were able to go together with, along with Space Coast TPO, was we value engineered it. So you had two spans with the Bascule Bridge. We were going to fixed bridge. So the east side was actually built much wider. The lanes are wider, the shoulders are wider. So after the east bridge was torn down and the construction was completed on that, we were able to put both lanes of traffic on there so we could continue to work, tear down the west side bridge, construct that without any traffic interruptions. The other thing about that, we built it wider, anticipating payloads. You know, you got the big space payloads coming through there, so now that bridge is able to accommodate that. All right, Space Commerce Way, kind of a sister project to that NASA Causeway Bridge. And also I want to mention one thing. If you notice on the bottom, it's kind of the tie-in that we try to do with the compass. We got the safety, we got the communities, we got supply chain, we got workforce development. We're trying to meet these goals in all of our projects. So Space Commerce Way will be a 4-laning, kind of goes around by where the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Center is, and it ties in NASA Parkway West with Kennedy Parkway or North Courtney Parkway, kind of in that north end of Merritt Island. It'll allow payloads coming through the 4-laning. It also is going to help folks get to their jobs and just kind of open up that area a little. Our favorite, nobody's heard about this one today, right? That's a good thing about being the end. Everybody's probably seen most things I'm talking about. Ellis Road, I won't belabor it. We all kind of understand that. There is challenges there, but we are currently in the right-of-way phase, and we're hoping, fingers crossed, that by the time we get through right-of-way, we will have maybe a better path forward for the construction. It is a much needed. When I mentioned I get beat on about it, my brother-in-law and nephews and their spouses all work at Grumman. So they all live up in O'Galley and Viera area, so they're using Ellis Road, and that's when they beat on me. And I'll hear it again next week at Thanksgiving. So it is forefront in my mind, and hopefully we can get stuff going. But it is an important project. All right, Space Coast TPOs number 3 and 4 is State Road 528. This project is kind of segmented by North Courtney Parkway there through the heart of Merritt Island. We have the west side that goes over to 524 Industry Road, and we got the east side that goes over to 401 at Port Canaveral. It is not funded for construction, but the right-of-way right now, we're kind of starting. A really unique thing about this job, you know, we're going from 4 to 6 lanes on it, but one of the important things that we've done with this job is I think we partnered with Brevard County. You know, water quality is an issue. We've all heard that. There's been a bunch of studies out there. We're looking at the causeway and stuff. The department kind of pivoted on the design and has designed the bridge so it will span those causeway areas. And then in the future, if those need to be removed, you know, that we will have that ability. Helps us with our resiliency. We're making sure we build to that. But also, one of the things we did, it helps us on right-of-way cost and also hopefully with water quality, is we worked on a septic to sewer project with Brevard County to be able to eliminate some of the septic tanks in there and reduce the amount of water that we need to treat. So that's another, I can't say important project enough because they all are. All right, State Road 401, Port Canaveral. I'm sure you guys have heard about that too. We got a fixed Bascule Bridge out there now. The port, all their operations on the north side are limited by that. We're looking at, we're winding up in the PD&E phase now. We've been meeting with NASA, with the launch service providers. We just want to make sure we kind of are considering everybody's needs out there as best we can. So we've looked at various things. There's a WRF study out there that's looking at maybe how to increase some WRF space out there for space partners. That does get limited. The port has become very busy. And so if the decision is to move to the fixed span bridge, the design is funded. We actually have folks out there now our geotech folks, survey folks are out there now. We don't want to be behind the curve, so we're continuing to move forward with what we think will be the fixed span bridge going through there. But extremely important. It's important not only to the port, but also to military partners, Canaveral Space Force stations out there, the Naval Ordnance Testing folks out there, Coast Guard has facilities out there. So another great project. So lastly, one of the things we want to look at is, we talk about resiliency, we talk about we're launching a study now, kind of looking at a vulnerability and resiliency study on the 520 causeway. And this one's new to me. I had not heard of a resiliency or vulnerability study, but certainly makes sense. Brevard County has a ton of east-west arterials that we need to make sure are in good shape. How else are we going to evacuate people during hurricanes? Those are major roads that we got to look at. And with some of the things we hear about rising sea levels, we want to make sure we're resilient. We want to make sure our infrastructure is in good shape to be able to handle that. So with all that, you heard me say unfunded a lot. And we have a very robust work program. It's one of the largest in the state. Unfortunately, we have a lot of needs. We have a lot of unmet needs that we need to continue to work on. We're trying to leverage our dollars with our partners, with some of the federal dollars that are coming through. We're trying to do as much as we can. So the department's working diligently, and we're here. And we kind of come to meet with Georgiana on a regular basis and make sure we're understanding the needs of the Space Coast. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Jack, and all our speakers. Let's give another round of applause for all of them. Great. It is now my pleasure to introduce our keynote, the Executive Director of the Space Coast TPO, Georgiana Gillette. In her role, Georgiana oversees regional transportation planning for Brevard County's 16 incorporated municipalities and has the unique opportunity to collaborate and coordinate 5 transportation modes: highways, airports, rail, a seaport, and a spaceport. As Executive Director, Georgiana works closely with our local governments, state, and federal transportation partners, as well as our communities, to ensure that the needs of our shared transportation system are met. Previously, she worked for FDOT, and throughout her 30 years of experience in the transportation industry, Georgiana has continued to establish professional relationships with transportation leaders throughout the region and the state. Please join me in welcoming Georgiana to the podium.
Well, thank you, Sarah. Good morning, everyone. Presentations have been fabulous, very insightful, and a lot of common themes, which tells me that we are on the right track. So on behalf of staff, I want to thank you all for what you do every single day, because you spend your time thinking about collaboration and partnership, and you are moving the needle forward regardless of the mode of transportation. So we thank you very much. It's so important that we think about transportation holistically and that we talk to each other about how to improve it. So thank you so much for being here. So we know that our lives are connected to many networks of mobility. Our food, clothes, electronics, and more are at our fingertips via a network of transportation modes that require highways, roads, airport, seaport, rail, and spaceport, all which impact our quality of life. And it all interconnects, and it's vital for a thriving metropolitan area like Brevard County. And we know that the influence of each mode transcends jurisdictional boundaries. Our economy is largely built on these transportation assets. So some of the things that drive what projects the TPO undertakes: connectivity. Brevard is linear. We want to connect with the interior part of the state for economic and social reasons, as well as evacuation. We must also have access to the rest of the country through the interstate system. Then there's economic competitiveness. We have major employment centers, as you well know, and of course the beaches that are Brevard's economic engines that depend on good access to function effectively. And then there's the impact of growth. Florida has a population of 21.5 million, ranking third among all of the states. We have many visitors here in Brevard County. It's a big part of who we are. Land use has an impact on transportation, and our roads are starting to show signs of stress. Then there's system performance. We need to know where the problems are. Our traffic count database is extensive. We look at congestion, crashes, and trends among all the modes, not just for capacity projects. And then, of course, there's cost feasibility. The cost versus the revenue, and that includes local, state, and federal funds. Projects need to be financially viable based on anticipated funding, and then there, lies the rub. And then there's public acceptance. Gone are the days that, when the public would embrace a road project and view it as progress. Steering through public involvement icebergs is now a major concern for any project. Is that a bad thing? Not necessarily. Our citizens have a stake in it. But it can really slow down projects, very good projects, by the way. And projects can also be delayed and stopped by political turnover, which is also another concern. So the best transportation plan is a great land use plan. The transportation system is directly impacted by land use decisions. Policies linking transportation and land use help guide the development of Brevard County cities and towns to better facilitate bicycle, pedestrian, and transit mobility to create great places. We want to leverage those intermodal connections. We must ensure that we have reliable connections to and from our ports to enable freight and passengers to use a variety of modes. We need to leverage what is uniquely Brevard and invest in those multimodal connections and high-tech industries. That's an economic development strategy that is sound. We also need to have some balance. Our community's growth and needs must be balanced with safety and environmental considerations, and we must plan for the future. System continuity, compact or mixed-use development, that encourages travel options for more walkable communities, less reliance on autos for quality of life, and sustainable communities are essential. This helps to preserve what is unique about Brevard, and that's our natural resources. These are sound strategies for managing growth. And then we have to leverage our high-tech industry. The pandemic brought changes in workspace and transportation. We all saw that. We have industry disrupting mobility like connected and autonomous vehicles, plug-in electric vehicles, ride sourcing platforms, and micro-mobility. They're transforming how and where people move. So we have to, we have knowledge of these trends, but there's still a lot of uncertainty about how government and decision makers will use them in the face of uncertainty. And so through our planning research and processes, this has revealed to us that these are the primary factors in achieving a long-term vision for Brevard, for our transportation network, and that is to invest in our ports, continue that high-tech focus, more walkable communities, less reliance on autos, wider variety of housing, more travel options, transit, rail, rideshare, and non-motorized modes. All of these enhance the way we live and travel. So how do we get to this vision? Well, we're going to get there through all of our master plans. And the first one is our Intelligent Transportation Master Plan. A lot of folks here have mentioned that as priorities in their area because we have to plan for the future in mind. ITS is an advanced system for controlling and monitoring signals on transportation networks. It saves taxpayers money and time, and it's much cheaper than widening a road. It maximizes the investments we have already made in the roadways, ports, and our signal systems. At last count, I think Brevard County had over close to 500 connected signals, and in close partnership with our FDOT partners and our local agencies, Brevard County, we've invested millions in our ITS system over the past 8+ years. And these partnerships have really created a communications network that has enabled us to manage our existing systems more efficiently and provide better information to the traveling public. And Mark mentioned our traffic management center. We like to call it a transportation management center because that's what the DOT calls their TMC. But that construction hopefully will be going to construction next year. And the TMC is really the brains of the operation. This is where it all happens. And you have to have appropriate staff to be able to manage the ITS system. And this was a great partnership between FDOT and Brevard County, a 50-50 funding match for this project. And so, our communication system has been built with the future in mind, kind of like, NASA's rover conducting groundwork on the Mars mission. Our connected signals are the foundation for safer and more efficient transportation for all, and it's going to set us up for the technology for connected and autonomous vehicles for the future. So, in addition, we also plan for non-motorized transportation through an expanding network of bicycle and pedestrian trails. If you plan cities for cars and traffic, you're going to get cars and traffic. If you plan for people and places, you're going to get people and places. So this is very important master plan as we try to get as many of these projects funded as possible in working with our local governments. Our Vision Zero Action Plan outlines how we will achieve our goal of eliminating fatalities and serious injuries on our roadways. 100% Brevard County municipalities have signed on to Vision Zero, and I'm so proud of that. But really, that is just the beginning, and I've heard Vision Zero mentioned multiple times this morning. Safety is a priority for all of us. We do ourselves a disservice by being at the top of these national lists for pedestrian fatalities, and we can do better. And we have a plan to do better, but it's going to require a culture shift, and we have a lot more work to do. And resiliency, our Transportation Resiliency Master Plan is a roadmap to resiliency focused on the impacts of wildfire, flooding, coastal erosion, hurricanes, storm surge, and sea level rise. The plan was developed through considering the criticality of corridors based on their access to our major destinations and local assets, such as schools and fire departments and vulnerable populations. And I want to talk about a study that we are working on. The TPO is exploring a passenger rail station in Brevard County. And this is in cooperation with our FDOT and COCO, the City of COCO partners. The potential site is located near Clear Lake and State Road 528 in US 1. This was the preferred location recommended by the 2016 passenger rail location study due to the proximity of the port. And the goal is to enhance mobility by analyzing the intermodal connections to our major destinations. And, you know, we are going to develop a vision, the potential ridership, a siting plan. We have a lot of work to do. And if you haven't already visited Laura, our assistant director over at the intermodal station table over here, she can talk to you about transit-oriented development, which has so many benefits that would be wonderful for us here in Brevard County. So I will talk a little bit about some high priority projects. Many of them have already been mentioned, so I will not dig into them very deeply, but clearly, you know, as everyone has shown this picture, and Cliff, this is Cliff's line, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And this is number one, and our number one priority, and we are very grateful for the partnership. This is truly a funding partnership to have the DOT, we've got state money on it, we've state matching funds, federal funds, Brevard County funding, as well as the City of Melbourne and West Melbourne. And the Melbourne Orlando International Airport have been tremendous partners. They can't put any money on the project due to the statutory requirements, but at least they have been helping in so many different ways, as well as the Melbourne Regional Chamber. So we are so appreciative of our great partners. The 528 beach line widening, you know, Jack and Captain Murray has talked about that. You know, kudos to the department for the septic to sewer projects, as well as, you know, having a much longer bridge for resiliency. That is very meaningful for this project. You know, it's not uncommon for large transportation projects to take 20+ years, but, you know, we're already in year 17 for the 528 widening, and the construction funding is needed today. And with a $400 million price tag, we need to get busy strategically trying to figure out how we're going to make this happen because time seems to be running out. And so whether that means, you know, tackling the eastern section first, from State Road 3 to the 401 interchange, I don't know. But we definitely will need to be looking at some funding strategies pretty quickly. And then, of course, we have the 401 bridge. You know, you can look at this picture, and this also tells a very clear story of the important system linkage, modal relationships, not to mention the defense access are critical. And we need construction, and that's going to cost about $125 million. So I have to mention US 192 in Hollywood. You know, it's not a big, sexy project, but this is a project with a lot of bang for the buck. Intersection projects that add capacity to a very congested 192. You know, construction is underway. This was a top priority for us for quite a few years, and it is estimated to be completed in the summer of next year. So this is a very important project. The Malabar Road widening, this is the west side, and we also know that the east side needs widening as well. That's the state road portion. But this is the city of Palm Bay and the small county portion. You know, this is needed for congestion, safety, multimodal enhancements. The design is fully funded and expected to begin, I think, within the next year. And of course, what I am very appreciative of for the city of Palm Bay, they've been aggressively pursuing purchasing up the right-of-way for this project, which is really important to try and move a project along. And the majority of the right-of-way has already been purchased. And so that's going to help tremendously as we finish up the design and then try to move to the next phase. A1A, this isn't a capacity project. This is truly a quality of life project. You know, they're important for pedestrian and bicycle safety as well as speed management for the community of Cape Canaveral. These projects have been a priority for many, many years. the curb and gutter medians, wider sidewalks. It does involve stormwater, which means right-of-way is going to be needed. And so the design will be finishing up. I think they're approaching 60%, and we need to try and get the right-of-way funded as quickly as possible, trying to look perhaps for some funding strategies, maybe for a Safe Streets for All or some type of grant opportunity. And then I will finish my project list by talking about Clear Lake and State Road 524 in Cocoa. These are two significant widening projects. Clear Lake from Michigan Avenue to Industry, and then State Road 524 from Industry all the way out to South Friday Road. Both will improve capacity as well as pedestrian safety. Clear Lake is undergoing a PD&E update and a design update. And the next phase will be right-of-way along that corridor. And then State Road 524 has been funded for the design phase for fiscal year 24-25. So the projects are moving forward, but we still have more work to do. And for the potential for a Bright Line station, these two projects are extremely critical to make sure that we have the infrastructure in place to be able to handle the additional traffic. So a little bit about the money. Our priority list, includes approximately 60 projects, and these are just a few, but they are a few of the top priorities. Funding is preventing the department and our local governments from building more. We are constrained by our revenue. There is insufficient funding, and I mean local, state, and federal, to make critical transportation improvements. As Mark mentioned, most local funds, goes to maintenance of the roadways. They certainly do not go to capacity. So highway projects are funded through gas tax, as you know. The state tax is indexed to inflation. However, the federal gas tax has not been raised since 1993. And in Florida, only 25% of DOT's budget comes from the federal government. There are other states that may get up to 100%. But we only get 25%, and that 25% is what can be used for projects off the state highway system, because you cannot use state funding off the state highway system. So we have a challenge there. Then you throw in, more fuel-efficient cars and the fact that electric vehicles don't pay any gas tax, the rising construction and labor costs. Our revenues are not keeping up with the costs of our transportation needs. So what happens in the business sector when the business model is no longer working? You change the model or you go out of business. And so I think that we all need to acknowledge that there is a problem with relying on the fuel tax as the primary source of transportation revenue. And I know there are conversations happening in Washington. We need a plan for our country as we move forward. How are we going to make these major improvements? So back to the slide that Nick showed in the very beginning, the relationship between the long-range plan, our list of project priorities, and our transportation improvement program, which are the funded projects. We're stalled in the middle of the bridge. So many of our priority projects on the list are on the list, but they cannot move into the transportation improvement program. They're not funding. We don't have any funding for them. So we feel that we're stuck. So we're going to have to come together and really come up with some funding and implementation plans on some of our major projects. And perhaps we need to aggressively go after more of these federal and state grants. The challenge that we have is that typically these grants require a non-federal match, which means we would have to, perhaps, if it's off the state highway system, be looking to our local governments to come up with that 20% match. And so it's a challenge. but we have got to strategically be looking at all possibilities to start moving our projects forward in the future. So I'm going to end with this slide. Yes, we do face a lot of challenges, but we have to recognize them and then seek opportunities. We want to continue and enhance our exceptional lifestyle here in Brevard County. This is a wonderful, wonderful place to live, and we also have to prepare for tomorrow's workforce. We will continue to achieve miles of success, but we really do need to have a unified vision for Brevard County, and I think we do. I love the presentations. I think we are all moving in the right direction. We are connected, we are futuristic and multimodal. We are the Space Coast, and this is our transportation network of tomorrow. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Georgiana. And of course, here's some opportunities to please continue to participate. But as we're coming to the end of our program, it's really just the beginning of this planning effort. As I mentioned before, we are just in the goals and objectives stage of this long-range plan, and really looking for you all to help us participate in crafting this plan for 2050 over the next year and a half. So as we go forward, you're going to start seeing a couple events coming up as we're looking at those issues and opportunities within the area, confirming the goals as we're going to go. And then we'll start developing those needs with your partners, starting in January, coming back around, looking at the financial resources and adopting that final transit plan earlier, and then coming together with that full cost feasible plan for 2050, looking at those last 15 years and really that vision for the future. So please continue to participate as you start seeing some of these events come out, and thank you.
All right, so thank you all for attending. Before we conclude the day, I would like to do a couple more thank yous. So one more round of applause for all of our presenters. Also like to thank @Farm Media for providing our AV today, as well as also recording. This will be going up on our YouTube, so please share, and if you want to go back and reference any of the presentations, let's hear it for @Farm. Thank you to HDR, our long-range transportation plan and transit development plan team. And then I'd like to have all Space Coast TPO staff please stand. And Abby had to jump out, and without all of our staff, we couldn't have made today happen, or all of the plans and functions that Georgiana shared with you just now. Oh, I already did that one. So I do want to encourage you to stay connected. If you don't already follow us on social media, please do. As well as also we have 2 newsletters that go out. And show up and attend various public meetings and committee meetings. It's really important to have everyone active and engaged in transportation planning. Finally, let us know your thoughts on today's program. You have both a paper version, as well as you can also use the QR code and fill it out on Google Forms. If you do choose to use the paper version, just hand it to Zoe and Debbie when they collect your name tag. So another reminder, reduce, reuse, recycle, please return your name tags. And then we are also right now conducting a transit survey as part of the Advanced 2035 Transit Development Plan. So that's also another survey opportunity, and there is a QR code card in your folder today. So thank you to everyone. And please, before you leave, go visit our tables and provide feedback and input in the various ways you can. Thank you.